In this round, I played one of the craziest endgames of my life. It's actually an endgame that I've never had in my life, and I think that my mom almost had a heart attack watching everything that happened. So this was round 8 of Reykjavik Open, and I had the white pieces against Hüseyin Yiğit Jagsi from Turkey, a 1900 rated player. Now, coming into this match, I was super stressed because my asthma the past few days hasn't been so good. I have asthma, but sometimes it gets a little bit worse, and my asthma medicine ran out. So right before the game, I was running to the pharmacy to get my asthma medicine, and it took like 40, 50 minutes to get it because I needed to first get it prescribed, and then, you know, they had to like check ID, and, you know, it was a lot of different steps for me to get it prescribed here in Iceland. And it made me be late to the game. So I got to the game like 10 minutes late. And it wasn't because I, wanted to be late or anything like that, but it was really just because I wanted to have time to get my asthma medicine. So some people I saw were like, Anna is so disrespectful. She is coming late. But I just wanted to breathe. So yeah, it just took way longer for me to get it than what I didn't think it was going to take 45 minutes to get it prescribed. But anyway, so I got to the table a little bit late. I had already told my opponent that I was going to be late, and he was so nice about it, and he asked me if I was okay when I got to the table. And I thought that was like the sweetest thing ever. So we said hi, we shook hands. I'm not going to say shaked. We shook hands, and then he started the clock. I played d4 as the first move, and he went d6, and this was kind of like the old King's Indian, and I don't really like playing against this because I don't know so much theory in this opening, which I feel like I say about a lot of openings, and I feel like that's why I should probably study more openings, and that is what I'm going to do before my next tournament. That is my goal. But anyway, c4, knight f6, knight c3, knight d7, e4, e5, and here actually, like, it's a mistake to play d5. Like, this is not a good move. Typically, what you want to do is go like knight f3, bishop e3, and defend this pawn. But the thing is that I don't feel so comfortable in these positions because I haven't played them that much. So I thought, Anna, let's actively make a worse move that makes you feel more comfortable. Because chess is about like comfort too, right? Like if you feel uncomfortable with what you're playing, then you're not going to play as good moves probably. So I played d5, and he told me that he had checked my games and he knew that I was going to make this mistake, so he was really happy. So knight c5, targeting this pawn. I went queen c2 defending it, and now a5 to prevent b4. So I played h3. The idea of this is just that I want to play bishop e3, and I want to prevent knight g4. And now I played bishop e7. And here I spent actually quite some time, and I probably did like quite a weird move. But the move had a reason, and it looks very strange. I went g3 here, which looks very strange. The reason I didn't play bishop e3 during the game was actually because I was scared of knight h5, and then I really wanted to prevent knight f4, so I thought g3. But then I thought that he would have this move bishop g5, and he would be able to trade bishops. But what I didn't realize is that actually after b takes, d takes, bishop e2, and knight h6, after knight f3, this bishop is almost trapped. So the bishop kind of has to go to h6, but then I can take this pawn. So I didn't realize that there was this kind of tactical thing going on. But that was the reason for me playing g3 first, that I wanted to avoid him playing knight g5, knight h5, and bishop g5. Trading his really bad bishop for my bishop that is good, as all of his pawns are in dark squares, blocking this bishop from moving. So that was the reason for that. So I went g3, he went castles. I now played bishop e3. He played knight d7, preparing maybe to play f5. I played knight f3 to prevent bishop g5. He went a4, which I thought was a bit of a strange move. Here I played, I was thinking of maybe playing something like rook d1, but I ended up actually just playing bishop e2 to get my bishop out. And then after c6, I'm actually really proud of this. I actually played the best move in the position, which is castles, which looked a bit strange as this pawn is a little bit, hanging. So he took on d5, and now I did what my mom called a positional mistake. I called my mom after the game when I was walking back to the hotel, and I was FaceTiming her, and my mom was like, Anna, you made a positional mistake. And this was it. So here I should actually just take with the c pawn, And this is just so good for me because my bishop is active. This pawn is weak. I'm just going to get like the rooks in. It's so hard for black to ever defend this pawn because b5 is defended by so many pieces. So this is just an amazing position for me. And he cannot even play like f5. So this is just very comfortable for me. However, I really wanted to have an active knight for some reason, and I wanted to kind of target this pawn. So I went knight takes d5. And this is just a positional mistake. I should take with the pawn and not with the knight. So he played knight d6 here, and now he's kind of threatening this pawn. And the only thing that I really saw that I thought would be good was to take on c5. Now the idea being that after knight takes d5, c takes, and pawn takes, that this is hanging. So here I went knight takes e5, which is the best move. Bishop takes h3, and actually the best move that I have here is rook e1, which looks a little bit strange, to be honest. It looks very, very strange. But this is, yeah, one of the best moves that I have. I went rook d1, which it looks like there's not really going to be a lot of difference, which maybe there's not, but I think actually it would be better to put the rooks here and here, to keep this pawn a little bit more defended as well, and to be able to, at some point, maybe push e5 and have that pawn be defended. So bishop f6 was played. This was a strong move. Now I've pretty much lost all of my advantage. Also, I'm seeing a big boat with a lot of tourists outside. Reykjavik is so open. There's so beautiful. I mean, there's so much water like everywhere. But it's so windy and cold. It's extremely, like yesterday when I was walking to the playing hall, I thought I was gonna fly away because the wind was the strongest wind I've ever felt. I had to literally like take step by step, breathe, and just hope that I wouldn't fly away. And it physically hurt how much wind there was. It was insane. I've never felt that kind of wind in the past. But anyway, so bishop f6. And here I wanted to target this pawn. I thought knight f3 could be a move to prevent this, but I really wanted to target this pawn on c5. But now he has this move bishop d4, and his bishop becomes very active, and all of a sudden my position has become pretty bad. I took the pawn on c5 so that this bishop wouldn't be here forever, because I felt like if I did a random move and he was able to solidify with b6, keep this pawn here and keep this bishop here forever, this bishop would become my biggest nightmare. So I went knight takes c5, he played queen f6, and now actually the best move that I have is to sacrifice my exchange and go rook takes d4. That's how strong this bishop is. And this is around equal. But this, I think, is a very difficult move to make, to be honest, because I'm almost basically saying I'm never going to be able to win this game because of the fact that like it's really hard to win being an exchange down, I think, and to play it. So instead I played knight d3 back, and now I just have a really bad position after a3. And this is the key idea in this whole line that he played, which I kind of missed in the beginning of the line, that he has this move a3. I cannot take because my pawn is pinned. And now I'm in a lot of trouble because he's going to take here with the pawn, and then his rook is going to come in, and bad things are going to happen. So here I think something that maybe would have been better would have been to play knight f4, with the idea that after a takes b2, rook a b1, and bishop d7. At least here I have a little bit more of play, I feel like. But this is still, after maybe something like bishop c4, this is still very difficult for me to play. But I ended up playing rook a b1 here. He played rook c8, which is actually a bit of a mistake because it gives me time to place my queen on d2. And now after a takes b2, now I have this move, knight f4. And actually the reason I didn't play was because of bishop c3 and queen e3, and I got a little bit worried about this, but this is actually pretty okay because I'm giving, you know, some squares for my pieces. However, I didn't play knight f4. Instead, I played the move queen f4, thinking that this would be good, but as you can see, chess.com is giving me the double blunder mark, and it is not good.
Oh, I'm getting so nervous now. I'm getting so nervous. Knight f4 is forcing black only to make, because she needs to have some activity. This is passive. She is bringing this. Now, this, you need to go bishop c3. Her queen, her king is much safer, and after this move, she had d6. And all of a sudden, she has activities. All of a sudden, she has activities with knight d5 coming. This bishop c6, I don't know if you can play it. Can we go here? This might be a mistake. This might be a mistake. Absolutely. Did she go? No, she went knight f4, queen f4. And queen f4 is actually a losing move.
Which makes sense, like there's a lot of action going on over here. I need my queen to defend. Me getting rid of the pieces that can defend my position makes no sense from a principle level. So queen f4 makes no sense from a principle level. Also, the reason I didn't in this position play queen b3 was because I was scared of this, and after knight f4, I was scared of rook c3, and then this is hanging. So just wanted to show that real quick. So I went queen f4, which is a big blunder, and now I am dead lost. Like here, I am dead lost. He can play rook takes a2, he can play rook c2, he can pick and choose what way he wants to win. But he decided to go rook c2, which is a really strong move, threatening my bishop, and now once again, I am in so much trouble. I can't really move my bishop. He's threatening to go rook takes a2, and if he's able to get a position with rook takes a2, rook a1, and rook c1, he is going to be queening, for sure. Like, he's gonna make a queen. So this pawn on b2 is my biggest enemy right now. So here, I mean, I was kind of in a desperate mode. I was thinking maybe I should go e5, and I thought takes, but then I thought something like bishop f5 just looks absolutely terrible. I didn't know how to continue this position, because if I go something like rook here, he simply has rook c1 check, and now when I go back, he has bishop takes b1, and it is completely lost for me. So instead, I went queen takes f6, and after queen takes, my only idea here was to run with the d pawn. So I played e5, and he took, and this is a great move. And now I have knight takes e5, and after rook takes e2, I went knight c4, threatening this pawn. The idea being that after rook takes a2, I have this move d6. And this was my only idea. I was just basically thinking, okay, I gotta just push this pawn, and everything that I wanted was to get rid of this pawn on b2. So here, he has to go king f8 to defend. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to give up this bishop, but at least now he's basically defending from the checkmate, and he's getting a little bit closer. And now basically after d7, even though he has to sacrifice his piece, it doesn't matter because this pawn is so strong. And here he has to move rook c2, threatening my knight. And now if I go something like knight over here, he has rook c1, as after rook d1, he has rook takes b1, and then rook a1. And this is now winning, because my king is on g1 and I cannot take this pawn. So if my king was on g2, this whole position would be very different if my king was over here. But luckily for me, he did not play king f8 because he didn't want to sacrifice a piece. I think he missed this idea of rook c2, which is his only winning idea there. So instead, he played rook e8, which is a blunder, as now I can go knight, I can take the b2 pawn, and now I have a lot more drawing chances.
He played. What did he play? He played the rook to e8. He played the rook to e8. So now, after rook e8, Anna can take on b2. But what will she take with? It's actually better to take with a knight.
Here I was really happy because this pawn was my biggest enemy, and I was just so happy that I was able to get rid of it. And I felt like now I had a lot more chances to survive. It had felt like for a long time like I was completely losing. I only had a minute on the clock here, so I was sweating. Like, not literally sweating, but I was nervous. I was nervous, and I was just, you know, really trying to survive in this position. So I played b5 with the idea of stopping my knight from coming up, but I now went rook d5 to threaten the pawn, and after he defended, I went knight d3, and this is now stopping the rook from coming into e8. He played f6, and I had this move knight c5 now, and it may look as if, you know, I'm getting checkmated after check, bishop c6. If I move my bishop, there's a checkmate. But here I just simply have d7, and then here I would make a queen. So this doesn't work. So after knight c5, he played bishop c6, which is a big blunder. He has to go rook d8, and then this position is a draw, pretty much after takes and takes. And rook takes b5. It's just going to be a draw, 3 versus 2 on the same side. So instead he played bishop c6, which is a big blunder due to d7 and rook d6, threatening the bishop. But this, you may think, is just completely winning for me. This is just the beginning of an endgame, of a long and crazy endgame that would completely change the way that I see endgames for all foreseeable future, I feel like. He went bishop takes d7, he has to take this pawn, and now I can basically either complicate my life or make my life really easy, and I decided to complicate my life. Here I can go knight b7, threaten the rook, and after rook takes b8, go rook takes bishop, and after b4, knight c5, b3, and rook d1, this position is a lot easier for me to play. I need to keep one rook to make it a lot easier for me to win the pawn. And the moment I've won one pawn, it's really easy for me to win. But the problem is that I need to win this b3 pawn, and I need to make sure that I still am able to keep pawns on this side. So I missed this idea, actually, of knight b7 completely during the game. I mean, I only had a minute 30. I completely missed that I could go knight b7, and so I decided to take on d7 with the rook, and this endgame is actually objectively a draw. But the funny thing is that both me and my opponent thought that we were winning. I mean, I thought I was winning in this endgame. I thought knight versus 4 pawns must be winning. My opponent thought that he was winning because he thought that he would be able to get, 2 passed pawns that would completely control my position. So both of us were playing for a win in a drawn endgame. And that's how complicated this endgame was. We didn't really fully understand it. And I always thought that if I have a knight, I mean, it should be easy to win. I thought that as long as I don't trade pawns, it should be really easy to win. And that's the thing, I just need to not trade pawns because I will win with my pawns, not with my knight. So I played h5 and I went king g2, king f7, I went king h3. My plan here was actually to have my king on the king side, controlling this pawns, and this knight defending on the queen side this pawn. So my idea here was just simply to try to somehow break through with my king and my pawns and target his extra pawn on the king side. I don't know if this is right. It might have been better to bring my king to the other side. He played g5. I went knight c5 now to prevent the king from coming in. He went king e7, and I played this move f4. The idea being that if he goes king d6, I have knight e4 check. And I thought now that if he goes king up, I have knight takes f6. And I was calculating all of this all the time, as now I saw that this would be winning for me. So this wouldn't really work. So after f4, actually here a really easy way for him to draw is just simply to take, go king d6. And now after check, he can go king d5. And after knight takes f6, he can go king d4. And then this is actually going to be a draw. So, but this endgame was really complicated. It required a lot of precise thinking. He decided to play b4, which is also a really good move. And now I just went king g2, kind of asking him what he's going to do. He actually, instead of taking an f4, which once again would lead to a simple draw, as I only have one pawn, and it's going to be really easy for him to stop this pawn, he went g4, keeping more pawns on the table. I played king f2, he went king d6, I went check, and he played king e6. So here I brought my king up. I needed to make sure that I was still always being able to stop this h4 push, which is the only scary thing you can do. Push h4 and then push this pawn. I need to make sure that I'm able to stop both these 2 pawns with my knight and my king. That's the only thing I need to make sure of. But now he played this move f5, and this was the move that completely changed the game for him. So if he goes now, actually his only drawing move here is to go king f5. If he goes here, this is a draw because after knight c5, king g6, I mean, there's not really much that I can do, as I can never really leave over here, as then the h3 pawn is going to be pushing. So yeah, this is actually just a draw for me, which is kind of crazy. And also here now he has the idea of going h4 and then king h5 and then just trading. So yeah, so he played this move f5 very luckily for me. And then I actually have this one winning move, which is knight d2, very important, because now I'm cutting off his king, and now the king can never enter the position. And if the king, starts going, the king can, if it starts going further back, I will always be able to win this pawn. And the moment I win this pawn and I'm able to solely focus on this side of the board, I will be easily winning.
And she played knight d2. She played this good move. So now, actually, Anna is much better here, but this is not easy for the players to know.
So also now we can see that this pawn is blocked, as I can always take this, as I have knight f3 defending this pawn from queening. So we played a few more moves. I took this pawn, he pushed, I went king c3, And after this, in knight h4, he resigned, as now I am simply going to be taking this pawn and then pushing my f pawn, and he can never get any of my pawns. One line that I was calculating was this. And after king f2, I was just simply thinking f7, king here, knight f5 check, and then just queening. And then I would have a queen and a knight for the pawns. So I ended up luckily winning this game, but this endgame was incredibly crazy. And I think it's really funny that we both were playing for a win. Me and my opponent analyzed the game afterwards, and it was so interesting to hear his thoughts and hear what he had been thinking about during the game. And he was so nice, so it was really, I think it's great to analyze with my opponents. It's always fun to see what they have to say about the games and what they were thinking, etc. So this was my round 8, and I am now on 4.5 out of 8 points. So I'm actually performing pretty okay now with points, which I'm really happy about. I'm still losing like 20 points of rating, but I'm playing my final game of this tournament in around 1 hour. So if I win this game, I will not be losing that much rating. However, I'm playing as the 1950 who's been beating some 2100s. So he's been playing really well. So we will see what happens. Please wish me good luck in the comments down below. I'd really appreciate it. And please also subscribe to the channel. We're getting really close to 1 million subs. So thank you so much for watching this video, and wish me luck for round 9.